They really aren't.
Thanks very much, Mrs. Mom.
Aren't you two forgetting something?
Well, you build in.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 7 of the Resonance podcast, coming to you from the range. My name is Logan, and today I'm accompanied by Lydia Hernandez. Lydia is part of Ola Sonica, a music agency with a mission. They facilitate the success of Latinx artists in the U.S. Bands they work with could have a mass following in places like Mexico City, but hardly any support over the border. They work with bands like this to get them touring in front of and recognized by an American audience. So why don't we start off by just kind of giving us how your week was, and then we can get into some of the questions.
Hey, Logan, nice to be here. Excited. This is like my first interview, so if I trip over my words and stuff, you know why.
Oh, no worries.
So, man, okay, so this week, I've been scheduling some interviews for some bands. I have a trip coming up to Mexico City.
Wow.
So I've been planning that as well. Working with a publicist in Mexico City, so there's been a lot of back and forth for that. Yeah, and some other stuff I'll bring up later.
Awesome. Well, maybe we could get into more specifically what Ola Sonica does and their mission, just for the people that don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So I am the founder of Ola Sonica, and I kind of started this in a way by accident. I wasn't one that grew up with a lot of going to live shows or anything like that. I kind of grew up sheltered in a sense. And someone introduced a song to me. It was from a Mexican band named Zoe.
Mm-hmm.
I became obsessed with this band. I went to a festival in Tijuana and just fell in love with the scene of just indie rock music that they have going on over there. That was completely new to me, but it's ginormous throughout Latin America and Mexico. And so I decided right then and there, I'm going to be bringing all of this over here.
Right.
And that, again, not knowing anything about the music industry, very little about the bands. And I just decided that I was going to do it. And I had actually started working with a promoter, another local promoter.
Mm-hmm.
And surprise, surprise, he was a little bit shady. And our very first shows that we were doing together, he completely disappeared. He kind of just threw me to the wolves, and I was planning a show with the House of Blues.
Jeez.
Yeah. And he had disappeared. And so I had to step up and learn how to do all of this really fast.
Right.
He showed up at the last minute to basically take all the money. And but by that time, I had already built a reputation for myself. And all of a sudden now I have venues contacting me like, hey, can you do a show over here and over there? I have bands contacting me too.
Yeah.
Especially in Mexico, because there is a very big need for someone like me to try to connect the audiences. So that's how all of this started just over a year ago, and it was just a whirlwind.
Yeah. I mean, that's
until
amazing.
Everything stopped.
Yeah. I mean, I'm in a very similar boat, going to my first show over in El Paso and just falling in love with seeing live music. And then before I graduated high school, starting this with my friends and since we had the space available, it's a space owned by my family. And I just was like, okay, we're going to do this, and I'm going to figure out how to book bands and, make these deals.
Exactly.
and all of that stuff. So I totally understand. So what are some of the other services that you offer to bands?
Okay, so at first it was just being a promoter and doing those sorts of things. Little did I know that there were different roles. And so I started to take on the role of an agent without even knowing that I was taking on the role of an agent. So there was one band in particular that I saw at that festival named Odiseo that I got connected with their manager. And so at first I had just invited them over for one show. That is how I got introduced to the whole visa process, super complicated visa process that artists need to come over here. And so in order for me to do all of that negotiation on their behalf, I needed to become a licensed talent agent in California. You need a license for that.
Okay.
So and then it wasn't just doing the shows over here in California. They did have offers from Live Nation, but it wasn't enough for a whole national tour, and it wasn't enough to justify getting a visa. So then I was building national tours for them as well.
Okay.
Things are going really well with them. So the manager is their personal manager. He introduced me then to the general manager, who had much larger bands on his roster. And so before I knew it, I was doing all of that for the whole roster.
Wow.
And yeah, so alongside some of these tours, it was like my agency name, Ola Sonica, right next to Live Nation, and that was crazy.
Wow. Yeah, that is amazing.
Yeah.
So the mission that you're on obviously started pre-pandemic, and it may seem obvious to you why bands like that need support. Why is it possibly even more important for people to support them post-pandemic or during
Well, it's
pandemic?
even more. Yeah, it's even more challenging now. So before, like the big problem was the visa, and that is like tricky to navigate. Um, and it wasn't just building the tours and everything, but there's a huge, I should say, independent venues are super super important for this because, like I said, Live Nation is only going to give a certain amount of dates because they love the band, but it is always kind of a risk because it's a band that's not from this country.
Right.
And so they'll give them, certain dates and stuff. And so now that's where the independent venues come in because that's what, independent venues do. They're like taking a risk. They're like, yeah, hell yeah, we'll do this. We love
Yeah.
their music and stuff.
Yeah.
And so that support is needed for the bands. And then for the local venues and their audiences and stuff, obviously they need the support of the independent venues so that they can bring bands over here. Since the pandemic, there's a lot of venues obviously that are closing their doors. So
Right.
that's going to be a huge, huge challenge after when things open up again. Right now, I believe the embassy is actually closed, so there's no visas being processed anyways. And there was a news report that released recently that the fees are going to be nearly doubled.
Jeez.
So it's going to be, I mean, they're already going to be coming over here with a debt because of the visas.
Yeah.
But fortunately, over here, there's a lot of money to be made, and they can usually recover it, in the first tour.
Right.
It's definitely going to be a lot more challenging.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's definitely hard to consider when navigating things and trying to book things moving forward. But
Yeah.
obviously, that's still not 100% certain with even trying to book things. Like people have been reaching out to me and inquiring about, can we play a show? And it's like, sorry, like it's still not safe yet. And it's very hard to say that when, obviously I want to have shows, but I guess something else that I want to ask you is then, what have you been working with to try to still put the bands that you're working with in front of an audience, since touring isn't an option, and that's obviously a big way for them to be put in front of a new set of eyes each night at a different stage. What alternatives have you been finding are working, and what are you trying new that maybe somebody else could also try?
Well, a couple of different things. So what's unique about me is that even though I work with a lot of Latin American bands, most of my personal audience is over here in the U.S. And so even if it's just giving them shout outs and stuff, there's, always like, oh, wow, I never knew about this band, or things of that nature that I'm still bringing those bands out in front and center, like media wise, personally. Right. Additionally, I'm also like reaching out to different media outlets over here, so that way they can try to get that exposure that way. And I'm actually doing it crosswise as well. There's a lot of promoters actually in Mexico City that are doing virtual festivals, and they like to do a lot of international stuff. And so they'll reach out to me for bands from over here on the States if I know anyone. And then that way they actually promote them that way. Usually the festival that they do also comes with a variety of interviews and promotions and stuff that reach as far down as like Argentina.
Wow.
So that's again how I'm trying to connect all of these bands and the audience, and because it's not only just bringing Latin America over here, but I would really like for bands over here in the U.S. to become known,
Yeah.
more known over there. It's kind of crazy how there's that cult following that bands from over there really want to come over here, and we want them to come over here.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the same as reverse over there. Some of the like biggest bands and craziest audiences
Yeah, that's incredible.
are always going to be like in Mexico City. Yeah, like Arctic Monkeys and stuff
Yeah.
they're huge here, but over there they're like
Yeah.
everyone is in love with
Yeah.
Arctic Monkeys, So
Wow.
that's what I'm doing.
Wow. Well, most people, when they see like news headlines, oh, the music industry is being affected, like things are closed down, their thought, or when they see that, they may think it doesn't extend past live shows, or the venues and the bands being able to do something live. I was hoping, since you have all these roles and you take on all these aspects with bands, if you could share or shed some light into how different parts of the industry have been affected, and maybe how people could help out. So how promoters, bookers, tour managers, PR agents, or everyone's affected. It's not just a band being able to play live, even though that is a big part of their revenue stream.
Right. So yeah, I have a friend that is a producer, and then he's also a music teacher. And for a good 3 months, he didn't have any sort of income, and so that like right off the bat, that was like a huge impact for him. So everyone's again is thinking about like the venues and everything, but for him as an agent, also not an agent, a producer, and working in venues and stuff as well, like he didn't have any income.
Right.
I also have a couple of videographers that a lot of their work was also coming from doing music videos, things of that nature, and that's all done. Let's see. There's a couple of agents that I know that decided to leave, and actually a promoter, a very, very popular promoter here in Southern California, that I never thought in a million years that he would say that he's out, but now he's seriously considering like that's it. I'm just going to be changing my career. I'm not going to wait any longer.
Right.
And that's not even necessarily because of money, because he is on unemployment, so he has income. He could wait it out, but just I think the depression of it is just like I think I'm done, and that was really surprising to hear him say that. We had a couple of very large agencies over here that just broke up, and then some of them just became smaller agencies, or they're just focusing more on media promotion, things like that, because agents in general I think are kind of dying out in a way. There was already like that movement kind of dying out. So yeah, there's just a lot of change.
Yeah. How do you see people being able to directly support not only their favorite band, but the agents that are associated with them?
The agents that are associated.
Yeah.
That one's really. That when I feel like it's more really supporting the band, and then the band are the ones that are going to be feeding into the agent. I think the role of the agent is going to be it's going to be shifting to where it's a lot more media. It has to be a lot more marketing. That's going to be their focus.
Right.
And I think that's what's going to be actually most valuable to the bands as well. Because there is no like making money and stuff from the live shows and stuff right now.
Right.
So for people that are looking to support live music, it really is, you just spend the money. It's wonderful to be sharing, to
Hmm.
be saying like, hey, I like this, song or whatever, but you have to spend the money, like buy the t-shirt.
Right.
If they're going to have a live set where you have to spend like $10 to buy the ticket and you're like, oh, well, we just saw them, live over here for free, like
Yeah.
spend the money. It's just $10.
Right.
So that's what I can say. I mean,
Yeah.
please share.
Yeah. Sharing is
But
free.
yeah,
Liking, subscribing, thumbs upping, following, that all of that's free. So I mean,
yeah,
and some people just don't. That doesn't cross their mind. So if it hasn't, share,
yeah.
subscribe. It's
Please
free.
spend the money.
Yeah. And if you can go a
Yeah,
step further, spend the money. But
yeah.
so I wanted to get into a few more questions regarding like what it is you're listening to, and um, more specifically like who should be on our radar as a band from across the border that's about to break into the U.S. market, and maybe another band that isn't quite there but definitely should be.
Okay. Um, One band that I just felt like was really going to blow up, that was on the verge. Well, we were going to do a tour over here. Her name is Technicolor Fabrics.
Mm-hmm.
And if you listen to their old stuff, it's actually in English. But their Spanish stuff is a lot better. So definitely check out Technicolor Fabrics. Camilo Septimo was another one that we were going to go on tour. Um, it was going to be their second tour over here, and they have, I think, now nearly 1 million listeners on Spotify.
Wow.
And so yeah. And in Mexico City, they're doing shows now of like 10,000, you know, 10,000 seats and stuff.
Yeah.
So definitely Camilo Septimo as well. A band that's sort of like underground, that's not well known over here yet as much. I would say a band called Ramona. Um, they're originally from Tijuana, and they moved to Mexico City for a little bit. I think now they moved back to Tijuana. But there's another band over here that's very similar, Chicano Batman, that
Yeah.
everyone loves.
Yeah.
And Chicano Batman is cool, but Ramona, I feel, just does it better. Like that mood that
Yeah.
Chicano Batman does, Ramona just kills it. So
Awesome.
definitely check them out.
Yeah, I definitely will. I wanted to talk to you, especially more after the podcast, of course, but I think it's probably going to be something where you and I are making a playlist together as a collection of what the range offers in our staff picks, where we highlight these artists that you guys should be listening to. So definitely look out for that when it does happen. Um, on the note of Spotify, if you could open up your app on your phone and kind of go through a couple of your recently played artists or albums, or just let the people know what you've been listening to.
Okay, so an album that's been getting a lot of play is called Animales, Animals by Silvestre and Naranja. I don't know if you can see it there. They're a band from Argentina.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard just one of their songs, and I was like, damn, this is really good. And then I just listened to that whole album, and this hasn't happened in a while, where I listen to an album and just like every song is amazing.
Yeah.
And that's the way it is um, with this album. So the band is called Silvestre y la Naranja. Again, from Argentina, and the album's Animales.
Okay.
Another one is a band called Stints. This is their debut album, Ritual Artificial, which in Spanish it's Ritual Artificial. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like same spelling, but it just depends how you pronounce it. Um, so yeah, and this one is kind of trippy too. It's almost like the OG way with albums and everything that kind of take you on a trip. Like you have to listen to it in that
Yeah.
order in order to get like the full extent
Yeah.
of it. And that's the way they did this album. So it's crazy. So
Awesome.
that's
Yeah,
what's been on my replay.
awesome. Yeah, they should the stints should be making an appearance on this show pretty soon. We have something slated with them.
Yeah.
Um, Personally, I've been going back to Crumb's discography. I've been listening to a lot of them.
Okay.
Um, there's- I don't know, they're relatively popular with their latest album Jinx and 2019 and Lock It. That was kind of there were some songs on there that blew up. But going back through their discography is kind of what I've been doing lately. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's
reminiscing.
what I've been listening to. Um, so
Excellent. I'll check it out.
yeah, do you play any instruments yourself?
I played alto sax like years and years ago, and I have a ukulele with good intentions, but that
Okay.
never happened.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
played I played trombone. I have some intent to pick it up again, but I don't know when that is. That's what I used to play in school. Well, and baritone, but yeah, we'll see if I ever pick that up again. Um,
I don't
so
think I will. I have so much stuff going
yeah,
on.
yeah, same here. Um, Something else I wanted to ask was how anyone watching could help Ola Sonica specifically in their mission to, or in your mission to help bands make that cross, whether it's from the U.S. to the Mexico market or the other way around. Uh, is there a way that they can specifically help you? I mean, it's pretty detrimental since artists can't play live, and if you have a way for them.
It is. It is. Yeah, for me, I am going to be shifting a little bit, obviously, because as a promoter, like the stuff that I had planned are just not going to be happening.
Right.
So I haven't quite figured it out yet. I know a lot of promoters are doing like live sessions and stuff like that. I
Mm-hmm.
did toy around with that idea, um, but I decided I'm going to do something that just a little bit different, especially because a lot of the bands that I want to work with are across the country
Right.
or in another country. So I have to figure out another way of doing this. So a way that people could support would be, subscribing and following and stuff, and commenting. I mean, if you like it, I'd love, when I get comments and um, people ask me again, like, oh, what should I be listening to? Things like that. Like, just engage with me, talk with me.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah,
for me. That's the best. When we want to talk about music and tell me what
definitely.
you thought about this band or yeah, things like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, well, you're part of the Discord now. We try to use this platform as a way for anyone watching or following the range to come in here and share music and talk to everyone else that has been on the podcast before and in the future, since they'll be joining. What are you listening to, or what's going on? What do you like to? Yeah. Um, Something else I wanted to know was, where would you want to go? Maybe your favorite venue or combination venue band. Like, who and where would you want to see, given the opportunity? Obviously, if it was safe.
It was safe. I don't know the name of the venue. It's actually in Argentina. So this year, I had plans to go to Argentina to go see another band called Banda Los Chinos.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a huge fan of their music, but I remember just scrolling through their story one time, their IG story, and they were in the middle of a concert. It was, outdoors. It was beautiful, and that concert was just like I could feel it through my cell phone, and I
Yeah.
was like, I don't care how I do it. This year, I'm gonna go see them.
Yeah.
Actually, that reminds me that I was actually planning a festival. I don't know why that that I forgot about that. I was planning a festival, and I was already in talks with their manager to have them as one of my headliners, and that would have been part of their first tour and everything. And of course, they would
Mm-hmm.
have gone to the range. So
Yeah.
there we go with that. Let me cry a little bit
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah. That it's pretty difficult thinking
That
about
would
all the
hurt.
all the stuff that I had lined up. Um, it would have been
I know.
it would have been great to have all these bands come play, but sometime in the
I
future,
know.
we're sticking around. We're doing our best to stick around so that we're here again when or here when bands can play live again. So
Yeah, for sure. Same thing, because I'm the connection for a lot of, the bands that were on the verge of coming over here. And
hmm
so, and that was kind of like the whole point. That's what I wanted to be is that connection.
right.
So, but yeah, I would have gone to Argentina to go see Banda Los Chinos. That's another band I recommend you listen to.
Definitely. Well, when and under what, new circumstances do you see bands playing live again? Is there something drastic that you see has to change before that happens, or is it going to just go back to exactly the way it was?
No, not going to go back exactly the way it was, at least not right now. I think it's going to take some time before it gets like that.
Hmm.
Well, there's another promoter that actually just reached out to me a few days ago that there's one venue that they want to start doing, small capacity shows. And it would be slotted shows so that it would be a band. I think the capacity would be like maybe 40 with spacing and stuff like that.
Hmm.
After that band plays, like they leave everything sanitized and then in comes the next group. So
Yeah.
that's one way of doing it. But I mean, again, those are just, it would be like 40 people at the most there. Um, there's, these car shows and stuff like that. I don't know. Some people are a big fan. Me personally, not really. I'm
Yeah.
not a huge fan of doing things like that. But definitely it would work if, for huge bands that would normally draw like, 5,000 people and stuff.
Yeah.
It would definitely work for them. But I just feel like there's going to be a lot of it's going to have to be, unfortunately, a lot of lives. That's how we're going to have to do it for a while. I see that for maybe like a year or so.
Yeah. And I'm glad I think I've said this before in a different episode, but I'm very glad that we took the experiment of like trying to film the band in the studio before everything happened, so that now we're
Mhm.
ready and like we're fully able and capable to have a band come into the studio, and like we film a video of them and ship it out to everyone. Something I'm
Yeah, and
personally. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say that's so like valuable doing these live sessions. Not even just like the opportunity if they want to do like a live stream concert,
Yeah.
but then a live session, which is a completely different environment, a different uh, aspect of it. That is, yeah, it's just so valuable, but not only to the venues but also to the bands and the audiences that just like I don't want to see a show in a living room, like cool,
Yeah.
but can we do this professionally,
Yeah.
please? And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. That's I. All the power to every band that is continuing to provide to their audience, but to me, it's different when it's not filmed on an iPhone in a dark living room. It's
yeah,
so much,
yeah,
like, again, it's if that's the way you're reaching your audience, perfect. You're still making that connection, but I would just like a little more like connection, or I want it to, I don't know, feel a little more like a live show. So yeah, it's something we're definitely
for
like trying
sure.
to incorporate, other than the live sessions that we're already doing, is having that small audience and then live streaming to the rest of everyone that wants to see it. So it is still like a show, and you see the other people in the audience, but you can be watching at home with your friends or whatever. So,
An excellent idea. I think those are like the best online concerts are done like that, and that's I totally I'll fork up the money for that. I will pay $25 for
yeah,
a ticket for that for sure because that's totally worth it.
yeah. I watched one yesterday. I was trying to support one of my favorite bands, Peach Pit, and I just watched theirs. They played from this very big venue in Vancouver, and I was like, "Yep, sure, I'll support them." They haven't been able to play
For
their
sure.
tour. Literally, right as they announced it, got canceled. So, if I can support a band that I like, I might as well. So,
Yeah.
um, do you have any like advice for musicians that are starting now, or that have started right before the pandemic hit and are feeling discouraged and want to give up? How they can try to navigate this weirdness to an extent and gain some notoriety.
Yeah, I mean, I think in a way they might even have an advantage because you don't know any other way. And so you have to learn how to do it in this environment.
Hmm.
Other people, like even like for you as they're the venue, and for me as a promoter, like we had to learn as we went, and we're still kind of newbies, so we're a lot more flexible
Right.
with what we do. And so, same thing with a new artist. You're going to be a lot more flexible because you're willing to take risks. You're going to be wanting to try something new. You're going to be thinking outside of the box. Where someone that's been doing it for a while is just like, no, no, that's not the way we did it before. This
Right.
is not, this is not going to work. We need the shows. So, especially if you're like a ninja on like social media and everything, and you know how to do stuff that these other guys and agencies don't know how to do. I mean, I would say just go for it and just kill it that way. Even if you think it's a
Definitely.
stupid idea, usually those are like going to be the best because nobody else is doing it.
Yeah. Well, that is perfect advice, honestly. That's kind of what we've been going by, is just doing it, we're still here, so might as well be doing other things. So, um,
Yeah, yeah, you got to
yeah,
be flexible.
yeah, definitely be flexible. I kind of wanted to give you the floor right before we signed off. If you had anything you wanted to announce with any bands that you're working with, to share it to everyone listening or watching.
Let's see. There is a festival. Now I'm trying to think of oh, Alancia festival that I have a couple of bands, local bands from actually and a band from Houston as well. One that's
Mm-hmm.
going to be at um, at the range. So Camera Cult is going to be doing a festival, Alancia Festival, which is based in Mexico City. I have some other bands, local bands from LA. They're going to be on it. See Point Doom, the Violet Minefield. Point Doom is a local one that I would really recommend checking out. They're going to be
Okay.
blowing up. Really, really like them. Um, so those are things that are coming up. And let's see. And again, I have a trip coming up to Mexico City. So, going to be meeting up with some industry people over there to see what we can try to cook up
Mm-hmm.
again to try to maintain and create that connection and stuff. So excited for that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I want to thank everyone for watching, for listening. I want to thank you for being here and taking the time out of your day to come talk to me. I'll have all of everything where you can find Ola Sonica online and the bands that you mentioned for people to listen to. Our information will be down there below as the range. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next episode.